Hello and welcome to the C3 Pod. I think we decided that comedy gets to be one of those C's in there. So it's going to be like comics, comedy conventions or something like that. We'll figure out, we'll dial it in. But we want to give Paul Vato his credit for what he adds to the show. And that is definitely that comedic element. So there it is. And speaking of Paul Vato, there he is calling in from his podcast studio. This is the first time we've seen it. Paul, how you doing today?
Wonderful, wonderful. It's a bedroom slash exercise room with a Peloton bike and my iPhone. So that's what I'm calling a podcast studio.
I was going to compliment you on your lightsabers in the back, but I think those are black lights to light up your felt posters.
No, they are lightsabers. I'm also trying to get some so I can sample them out. But yeah, thank you. Yes, they are LED lights. Yes.
Also joining us from his parents' basement is Mr. Brett Lawson over there. Brett, tell us a little bit about your week, sir.
Well, first of all, it's my grandparents' basement. You know, that's actually who's in these crates behind me. So anyway, but no, man, everything's been great so far. Obviously, in the sports media world, that's the busiest week of them all, really, for anyone in my line of work. But also, just being able to break away from that and talk pop culture, talk some shop there, and of course, with Brendan, we're always talking baseball inevitably some way because he's always wearing some type of San Francisco Giants related outfit. But at the same time, I appreciate it because when you are constantly wearing something new every time I see you, whether it be in person or on the show, it's kind of hard to knock it because it's really just on it's continuously impressive, if you will. But no, man, it's great to be here.
If not dedicated.
Absolutely. And I love commitment and I love passion. And that's what this pod's all about. And yet another, we weren't here last week, so we're off and running again. And without Steve Johnston, who's apparently on his way to LA right now, but we'll carry on.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. But first, I want to acknowledge our executive producer and also the editor-in-chief of comiccon.com, Mr. Erik Amaya. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Getting ready for, this will air after Gallifrey 1, but I'm getting ready to head out to Gallifrey 1. So I'm looking
Which is really exciting too. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. Erik has been to Gallifrey 1 so many times and is known as one of the experts to the point where he's moderating a panel. He's the guy who's up on stage, which is my job at a bunch of conventions now. And so it's cool that Erik is going as one of the main guys, because this is one of the big keystone panels that they're doing. And Erik is in charge of that. He's heading it up and he's doing all the prep for that and stuff. It's very, very impressive. And as a Whovian, I'm very, very jealous. I asked, could he stream it or record it? But there's rules against that, I guess.
Yeah, no, there is no recording of panels. I might be able to do like a Instagram reel loop, but that's about it. I think that's the most I could do from that panel. The full panel, not a chance.
But interestingly, I think that because Doctor Who has such a worldwide following, that's one of the ways that Gallifrey could pay some of the bills is by offering a streaming service for the big panels.
I guess the issue is ultimately this is a fan-run convention. And, all of that, who knows what kind of legalities they're bumping into with that sort of stuff. Right?
I think that falls under fair use. I'm going to have to figure that out because
there's that. There's also the relationship with talent. Like one interesting thing that used to be true about the convention was the current producer and stars of the show could not attend. Because that was a BBC rule. If you're an employee of the BBC, you cannot go to these fan shows.
Well, you can't get blacklisted from the BBC because they're the only production company in England.
Yeah.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Nice.
So at least as far as actual shows, right? Yeah.
And if I can talk about my week a little bit, it's been a rough week because it's a lot of travel. I flew out to Pennsylvania to see my son and my baby granddaughter. Yes, I'm a grandfather now. And
congratulations again.
Thank you. That was a fun trip. And, it's the first time that I've seen my kid on the East Coast because when he was in the Army and stuff like that, I never made it out to New York and things. So, visiting him kind of on his home turf was a new thing. And it was fun, but it was also very stressful. I was getting my workouts in at the local YMCA. I'm going to find a YMCA in every city that I travel to now. So they gave me a veterans discount. The week-long drop-in is $30, which I would have paid easily. But they gave me a 50% discount on that. So I paid $15 to go to this amazing facility that had state-of-the-art gym equipment. They had pickleball, they had basketball, they had a heated indoor pool. If I had had more time, I would have spent, half a day at the Y easy with all the entertainment and stuff that they had. So I'm looking, when I go to Scottsdale in a couple of weeks for spring training and I'm all decked out for spring training, there's a YMCA there, and I'm going to see if I can't get in there to do the same kind of deal, because every one of them is independently run. So even if they do the $30, I'm for it. I don't need the military discount to get $30 worth of value out of that for the week, because I just feel so much better when I'm working out and being able to do stuff in the morning. So
you were in the Pittsburgh area, right?
I was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I don't actually know which direction I drove from Pittsburgh, but I rented a car. The place where he lives is right next to Altoona, which is very for trains, and the Boyer Candy Company that makes Mallow cups and Clark bars, and they've been making them for 100 and something years.
Huh, it's as if industrial trades are big in Western Pennsylvania. But no,
Like
yeah, right.
like
I've never heard of that. But no, that's cool. And because I'm not as familiar with that area, so when you told me you were going there, I didn't know. Like, how long has your son been out there?
He's been, well, when he was in the Army, he really liked the East Coast. So he was in, so like New York and Pennsylvania and everything. Everybody thinks in California terms, you can drive for 9 hours and still be in California.
Exactly.
But all of those cities and all those states are kind of really tight together. So he really just liked the culture and stuff over there. So he found a little spot to settle, and after he got out of the Army, and yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Let's get on to some content though. So the Masters Universe trailer dropped. Yes, sir.
Well, I just want to say just quickly here, this is to Brandon. Young man, there's no need to feel down, said young man, because you're new in town. Said, young man, there's no need to be unhappy. Young man, there's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stay there, and I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. So, young man, 100% I hope you had a great time.
It's the first time that I've ever set foot in a YMCA, and every word of that song rings true.
Well done, Paul.
Every member of the staff was delightful. It's the Blair County YMCA. I'm gonna give a shout out because every member of the staff was delightful. The equipment is brand new. It is spotless, and they're about to expand. So they're like knocking out a whole parking lot to put more equipment in, more rooms and things like that. They've got childcare. I mean, I could talk about these people all day long. It was 100% 5 stars. Would recommend in a heartbeat. So check out the local Y.
And check out old YouTube footage of Paul touring with the Village People, because we now know apparently that's what he did.
Well, I feel like we need to do this at a show now, where I can dress up as the construction worker.
I mean, you have the mustache.
We'll put Brett. Brett can be the sailor.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, what was it like? It was a sailor, and then it was an army man. Or was that the same dude, or was it a different guy coming in? Because there was always like a military presence in the
there was a police officer.
We now got our Patreon topic.
Did you guys know that they were gay? Or am I the
what?
The Village.
Can you imagine that first meeting?
I'm shocked.
No, I mean, construction worker.
This is
what we just mentioned about Pittsburgh. Yeah.
This is such a huge conversation, and I love that you brought that up. My grandparents, God bless them, they both passed away in 2001. They've been gone for a long time, but they had no idea that Liberace was gay.
Well,
none.
Well, I'm sorry, what?
Wow.
They had no idea that Liberace was gay, and it's like
Well, he wasn't.
There's a certain level of like denial, but also a certain level of innocence in that, where people looked at a band like the Village People or a performer like Liberace, and these guys coming out and doing this, like Siegfried and Roy. Come on, guys. Come on. Like, there's nothing wrong with the LGBTQ community or the lifestyle or anything at all with any of that. But like when it's so in front of you and you just refuse to acknowledge it, it's such a weird like disconnect.
Who are you kidding? Right. Exactly.
Well,
especially when it makes the act even that much better, because it seems authentic, but they're not branding it.
Right.
Oh,
they were like married, right? Siegfried and Roy were married. They had a real relationship. So when they were up there and things were happening, they were genuinely concerned and invested in each other. Right.
There was a dynamic there that you're not going to get elsewhere in live entertainment.
Yeah. Next, you're going to say that like Little Richard was gay or Freddie Mercury was gay. That's just anti-gay. Propaganda.
I love the nod in Rockstar too, where Marky Mark is in the studio and the singer comes in and he starts yelling or whatever, and he's like, "It's because I'm gay, right?" And he looks at me and goes, "You're gay?" And he goes, "Have you ever listened to my lyrics?"
And it's like not even to make it too like political or socio-cultural, but at the same time it kind of shows with how the reception of the artist and the entertainer is, that will determine if they're actually thinking like, or if they kind of downplay it as the audience, right? Like if it's someone you're a diehard fan of and that you don't really to have the connotation, you're going to act more surprised because it was never out there in the forefront. But that's also the way that person may have seen it. The other person, the radar may have been going off right away.
Well, and it's such a shame too that Freddie Mercury, right up into the point where he passed away, like wasn't super open and out because it wasn't accepted or whatever, and that he couldn't live his truest, his truest personality and his truest like reality in the public eye. That's so awful.
100%. That may have been the best part of the biopic, other than the Wembley Live Aid like climax. That may have been the best part of Bohemian Rhapsody, because it's the part of Freddie Mercury's story that you cannot tell, but it seems like it's never told, and in this case, it was.
Right.
Well, and if anyone here is ready to live their true life and their true self, by all means, I think right now is the time to step forward and, let us know that you're gay.
But I also love that we live in a time where it doesn't matter, to where like, coming out is such like a thing that, in the 90s was so hard or whatever. And now it's just like, hey, cool. All right. Right on.
Okay.
Well, what are we having for lunch?
Probably couscous.
Yeah, no, what's true? In college, the first friend who ever came out to me, I was like, yeah, I know. It was super obvious. No one loves Beverly D'Angelo quite the way he did.
Right.
Like, yeah,
you don't say.
I had my suspicions that you were.
You don't say.
The first episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right? Dee brings an actor friend to the bar. And she is thinking that he's interested or whatever. And he's telling these stories that could go either way. Like, you don't know if he's gay or not gay or whatever. But then like she goes to try and kiss him and he goes, whoa, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm gay. And she goes, what do you mean? I've been hitting on you this whole time. He goes, yeah, I just thought you were into gay dudes. He goes, I'm in musical theater. I do this, I do this, I do this. Like, how would you not know?
All right.
She goes, I'm not into gay dudes. And he goes, well, obviously you are.
Okay, Erik,
we're going to change.
Put a golf tee emoji up there, because that's we're teeing them up to. All
right, so we all saw the Masters Universe trailer, and actually, here is the poster for it. We can't actually get the trailer to run right now because we're having some technical difficulties, but we all saw it. We know that He-Man is built a little different, and people are losing their minds because that's what they do. But there's a new. Oh, are we going to watch?
I mean, I'm not going to be able to run sound, but we've
got.
Yeah,
we could like give some commentary as it's going on.
Cool. Yeah. So Grayskull, that's classic.
What?
They also had like always like a retro futuristic thing going, right? They had technology. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of the thing. Like, since we're getting this in live action,
there's Anakin.
Right. Since we have the special effects capabilities, we're getting this in a way in live action that I don't know if we ever really truly were able to foresee. So I think that for a lot of people, this is going to be kind of weird initially, because it's hard to separate animation from, what we're trying to convey now. But at the same time, if it's live action, you're going to have to take some deviations or make some deviations anyway.
Okay, but we're taking retro futuristic even further now, because this is obviously like either in the modern day Earth world,
with smartphones,
this is like adjacent.
It seems that part of the plot is his parents sent him to Earth to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
So, which automatically tells me, okay, She-Ra's the sequel, because why were the kids sent away? It's kind of an obvious layup for She-Ra to make like a Marvel style cameo at the end credits and stuff,
right?
And I'm going to be honest, I don't know about this. I really
like
don't.
The movie as a whole.
The movie as a whole, because I feel like Masters just has this very limited appeal. It doesn't cross generations. It's not like Turtles, where it was getting refreshed every 5 years.
That's
a good point too, because it's almost like it feels like they waited. I know you could only make it at a certain point in time to truly make it the way you want to, but it almost feels like you've waited a little too long where the ship has sailed. Right? It kind of has that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it feels like they're trying to pull in the new audience with the tech and stuff like that, because we all grew up with classic He-Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, when they remade Thundercats, they didn't do Thundercats in the same animation style. They didn't do the same, the characterization was different of the different interactions between them and stuff like that, because it felt like for that gap of the parents to the kids, they were trying to bridge it a little bit. And that's what this feels like to me, is with the cell phones, with the posters on the wall and things like that, with him sitting at a desk job, they're trying to make it more relatable to the millennials who didn't grow up with them.
And I mean, the costumes, especially for Skeletor and He-Man, are kind of an interesting mix of the old ones and what they call the 2000X series.
Well, and Skeletor looked like he was pure CGI right there, right? Like they didn't go practical the way that they did with the 80s film.
Sometimes it's hard to tell with the guy playing Skeletor. he was there.
Jared Leto is the voice. He's not the body, right?
As far as I know, he was on set. Who was that?
That wasn't.
I heard. My bad. I heard I was clicking, so I was just trying to reset my headphones. It actually had a more negative effect than I thought.
Listen, Brett.
Yeah. So like, if you don't like Master Universe, just black out.
It was Jared Leto trying to prevent any.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And you guys have a problem with my microphone being a little tinny? So yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah, no, the tinny's fine. Tinny's fine.
Right.
No, Jared Leto, for as far as I know, was on set, but I haven't heard any stories about him insisting that people call him Skeletor.
Yeah.
So,
right.
It's the story you hear on every other damn movie.
You know what? I just want everybody to Google Mars Island and make your own opinion of Jared Leto as a human being. I don't even want to talk about it.
Mars Island is one of the most frightening things to discover.
Right.
When you dig deeper into that guy's bullshit. But
yeah. But trailing off of the trailer, we have some new figures that are coming out, and people are getting mad about this, and I understand, but I also, it's one of those things where you're trying to relate the film to the audience, and when you're getting a new audience, you want new toys, you want them to reflect what's in the film. So they're going from the Masterverse, which was in 2021, Netflix released Masters Universe Revelation, their show, and the toy line that branched off was they had New Eternia, New Etheria, and the Vintage Collection. This is a 7-inch scale. So I think the biggest problem that people are having is that the new one that's coming out that's going to gradually replace Masterverse is called Chronicles, and this is 1:12 scale, which if you do the math is a 6-inch scale. They're a full inch shorter than the other figures, and these ones are going to coincide with the 2026 live action Masters film. So by the end of this year, they're going to be going from Masterverse. Let's see, which one is this? Is that Masterverse?
I believe that's Masterverse. No, I believe that's Chronicles, because this looks like the movie He-Man. So
you can see that the facial features and stuff more represent the actor who's playing He-Man in the new film, and that makes sense. A lot of times when they're doing toy lines,
Anakin, I'm never going to be able to unsee that.
Well, because they did the character representation was a little tiny kid with long blonde hair, and then it was an older kid in a robe with the same, right? It was the same progression that Anakin did in the Star Wars films.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's the old one. That is Masterverse.
That is Chronicles.
That's Chronicles. Where's the Masterverse image? Okay, now I got to look up on my computer here.
So then that would make sense. The last one was
got a couple of Masterverse for you. Here's Masterverse Battle Cat.
Right, and that looks a lot like, I mean, it's articulated differently, but that looks a lot like the Battle Cat that I grew up with. But the Battle Cat that we grew up with, did you guys know this? That was taken from a whole other line where they had this like lion or this panther or something, and they just colored it a different color.
Yeah.
So there's like different versions of it or whatever, and they're like, hey, let's put armor on it and make it orange and green. Like, yeah.
And then here's the Chronicles Battle Cat.
Yep.
Right. And that looks a lot more like the film that we just saw.
Yeah, absolutely. You can even tell with the elements, the fur, the texture.
From toy wonks that I watch, or toy people on YouTube that I watch, apparently the Battle Cat itself is the same one as Masterverse. That this is the same toy. It's the armor and the paint apps that are different.
Go back.
Let's see. There we go.
No, it's not. Look at the rear leg. Mm-hmm. You see, it's articulated in two spots there with a straight joint, and then this one's got a bucket at the heel.
As opposed to the knee. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Here's your Masterverse Skeletor.
That's the old one. Okay, so that's Masterverse. So this one is very much like the fantasy where it's got like the over-exaggerated armor. And then the new one is
looks like Skeletor crossed with Super Shredder.
It does. It does. It's the Super Shredder. This is Kevin Nash as Skeletor.
Yeah.
It's got the bulk.
Well, but this one here, and so I don't know why people are so upset though, because this one here looks so much more like the figures that I had when I was a kid. This looks like the 5-inch figure, and the comics and stuff that came with it because of the actual clothing, the dress that's on him, the coloring, the hood, and everything. This looks more classic to me. I don't know why people are upset.
Maybe because he's so slender, he doesn't have the kind of classic.
Yeah, but those figures were so anatomically wrong. They were so bad. That's the He-Man build, but the He-Man build, like you see the figure and when they do them for wrestlers and stuff and they do customs on them, you can tell they're using the He-Man build because it's so recognizable for being, short little trunk, long legs, the thick muscles and stuff like that, and the way that the articulation is and stuff. So An unnamed Mattel representative told He-Man.org, said, while there are still Masterverse action figures in the pipeline for 2026, we will be transitioning our core offering to Chronicles later in the year. We will, however, also have a number of special releases planned within the Masterverse Vintage Collection. So they're going to sell as many as the old ones as they can before they start trying to sell as many of those as the new ones that they can simultaneously, is what that sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks pretty classic too. Now, is that Man-at-Arms?
That is Man-at-Arms, yes.
Was he black in the original?
No?
Okay, so there's a little bit more representation here.
2000 X series he was. I'm not sure. But certainly in the Filmation series he was not.
Okay, so I like that. But other than that,
this
helmet
literally looks as like Idris Elba dressed as Man-at-Arms. Like he's going to the convention cosplaying as this character.
Now, I do remember with this figure that the head on the original was soft.
Yeah.
And so it like you could squish the helmet, and if you weren't careful, you could squish it in and it would never pop back out. It was like a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Like once you fold it, it's just folded. Yeah, cool. All right. So we kind of have a long second segment coming up. So if Steve were here, we didn't talk about where Steve is. If Steve were here, I'm sure we'd have a lot more to say about these figures. I kind of tailored this segment around Steve's knowledge, but he's not here.
Right.
Steve had to go.
The toy expert, God forbid, is not here.
So he's got a deal with a Southern California casino. It's Yamava, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, he has to deliver something that is super rare and super valuable to Yamava. And this particular thing is in the mid five figures in value.
Yeah.
So it is something that when you're in Vegas, you want to make sure it gets there. So he's hand delivering the piece today, and he's on the road, so he wasn't able to make it. So he can talk more about exactly what it is. Yes, sir.
Do you know exactly what route Steve might be taking?
Yes. Let's track him.
Yamava? I'm just a question.
Once this airs, that'll have happened long ago.
Right.
Well, I need to know right now, though.
Yeah. Then we'll update it in the next episode. Right.
Yeah.
Did Paul ever find out, properly what Steve's exact location was at 10:42 Pacific time AM?
He's like, he's the damnedest thing. I got robbed before I even left Vegas.
Yeah. Let me mute the microphone. So, guys, okay. So I'm gonna get the update momentarily as to where Steve right now currently is, and then, but yeah, we'll just split it, right? Okay, that's the plan. All right.
Yeah,
all right, I'm back, guys.
You definitely didn't mute that.
What?
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
That was a joke.
Paul, when we get done with the show today, let me know. There's something I need to take care of. I may need to talk to you.
Got it. You got it, buddy.
Cool.
Oh,
we happen to know another toy expert that could fence that for. I mean, go to break. Go to break.
Go to break. Cut to break.
Peppermint Patty's the worst. Comic-Con.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comic-Con.com.
Hey, welcome back. We are here, segment 2. And the timing of this, because we're a little delayed on our release, is that the Royal Rumble just happened last weekend. By the time the show comes out, it'll be like 10 days ago. But this was a weird one. This is the Women's Rumble. You can see a lot of big names in there. A lot of times what happens is the Royal Rumble, you get these surprises. You get entrants that come in that are, classic, people, favorites that, haven't wrestled in a while or whatever. We got some of that with the Bella Twins. Brie, wait, which one was there already? Was Brie the one that made her return?
Yeah, Brie and Nikki made a return exactly a year ago at the Rumble, and now here we are full circle, and now they're both back in the picture.
So the Women's Rumble they led off with, which is cool because the women are getting more spotlight, and that's been happening, which is important to note because a bunch of the women that were in the WWE Women's Evolution are in the match. Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Becky. Becky was in it, right? Let's see.
Yeah.
Yep. Is she in the graphic?
Yeah, Natty tossed her out.
Right, but is she in the graphic? I don't see her.
Yeah, she's second row and right in the middle, in between Stratton.
Oh, there she is. Yeah. Right. Okay. So some of the things that were happening, and it's interesting because with Brie coming back, they telegraphed it because Nikki came in with a number 2 on her back, and Brie had the number 1 on her back, but Brie came in two entrants after after her sister. And so with the number 2 on there, you're like, oh, okay. So they telegraphed a bunch of their surprises and they telegraphed a bunch of their returns. There were some weird things with this one. I did really enjoy seeing Sol Ruka hit a bunch of her big moves. There were a bunch of really nice spots, but there was just really some bizarre stuff going on in this Rumble. What'd you think, Brett?
No, absolutely. And, it's one of those things because the women Rumble, like, when it's good, it steals the show. And it seems like year in and year out, when it's bad, sometimes it's as forgettable as anything. And that has nothing to do with the fact they're women. It's just because Royal Rumbles in general are like that. It's the same exact thing for the men. And since you have 2 Royal Rumbles, sometimes they kind of not necessarily, take away from the other, but or completely diminish them. But when you have 2 of them, you sometimes wonder, are they really going to be able to truly invest the amount of time, the proper amount of time for both, that they truly need to tell the story, that everyone involved in the match, all their participants can get their shine. And this was one of them where, it never really seemed to click as far as the match, because if you know this watching for years, Brendan, every Royal Rumble has a point to where you start to kind of feel, okay, this is going to be good, or we could almost get off the bus now. And if you finish it, it's just because you want to see who wins it and how it all plays out. But you kind of know by the 14, 15 what kind of Rumble it's going to be, and you're especially going to know when you get down to like the final 5 or 6 if you're going to be in for a final good 12 minutes of action or whatever. This never really felt that way. The booking decision I don't mind. It seems like Liv needed something like this because she's getting quite the push, and she's been a really big star for them the past few years, but she hasn't really had that true moment attached to her name, at least as it pertains to Mania and the road to WrestleMania. And it seems like now the ball's kind of rolling for that. So I think that's a good decision. And ultimately, if they wind up doing a good job with it, we'll remember that more than the match itself. So,
well, now, and I do want to point out some positives from the match. Like I said, they did have the women's Evolution girls in there.
Yeah.
But also,
it was a great crop of talent. No doubt about it.
Because it's in the Republic of Saudi Arabia and women aren't allowed to show their body at all. They have to wear gear that goes down to their wrists and down to their ankles. The first couple of years that they did this, it was very bizarre because the girls were just coming out in just full black from head to toe, like body stockings. But their gear this year was really on point for staying within the parameters of you have to cover every single thing up. There was a lot of personality. So here you see the Bella Twins, and they're in, it's like racing gear or something. But you see Nikki is wearing 2 on her back, and she came out first, and then Brie came in with the number 1. So you knew that Brie was coming because number 2 was coming right there.
Charlotte had great gear too, making her entrance. That was really cool because it felt like
point. Yeah, she did that one gear. I forget what event it was, but a little girl in the front row had designed the gear, and they were wearing matching. And she came up and hugged her before the match. I think Charlotte is really kind of getting to that point where she's just really enjoying what she's doing.
Yep. And you could tell, you could literally tell when a superstar is actually going through the motions or whether or not they're actually truly invested in it and they're present in the moment. Charlotte looks more locked in than ever before. And, she has the gear, she had the styling and profiling. She's looking more like her pops now, and in the good way. I mean, obviously not physically, but she's looking more like her pops now than ever before.
Yeah, nobody wants to look like Ric Flair.
You're right, exactly. Not now.
Sorry. But it was a fun little thing that they did back and forth too, because number 1 and number 2 entrants start in the ring. And Charlotte and Alexa are tag team partners. And so when they came in, you'll see this with Demolition. You'll see this with, in the classic ones, Demolitions just fought each other. They go in there, they're supposed to be bruisers. They just beat the shit out of each other until the next guy came in. But Charlotte and Alexa went like they were going to hit their finisher. They were going to hit their finisher. They were going to hit their finisher over and over and over again, back and forth, going, hey, I could get you. I could get you. It was a fun little dynamic. But the weird thing for me about Charlotte is Charlotte did not need the rub. And they had Charlotte in there doing the Iron Man, or the Iron Woman in this case. She got the 59-minute mark of being in the match. And those are the positions where Sol Ruka or Zelina Vega or Julia or JC Jane, Lyra Valkyria, had a pretty rough pay-per-view a while back. And, to have that, I spent the most time in the match kind of marker behind you, or that thing to claim, really, I think should have gone to somebody else. Charlotte Flair could have spent 10, 15 minutes in there and had just as much benefit from the match, but some of those younger stars or some of the folks that have been struggling a little bit to get the push could have used that to put under their belt.
No doubt about it. And that's it never really seemed like they properly wanted to tell a story, or not properly, but I should say they never figured out the story they wanted to tell, even though they had the perfect crop of talent in there to do it.
Right. And speaking of the surprises, we've seen, Jordan Grace came in from TNA last time. Oh gosh, who was the veteran that came back? She was TNA Knockouts champion at the time. It was a big deal. It was a couple of years ago before Jordan came over.
It wasn't Mickey, was it?
No, it was Mickey James.
It was Mickey.
Was
Okay.
the current TNA champion, and she came over. So now they've got this deal with AAA. And so there's a AAA star who makes it into the men's Royal Rumble, but we don't have any of the AAA women, which is something that they haven't been focusing on in the shows, which they really should be, because AAA is just a minefield of talent that they could have grabbed some of the female superstars and brought them over or whatever. But no TNA, no AAA this year, because I think we kind of also, as far as the women's talent goes, we already rated them for talent. So we've already got, cool.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been the case now for a couple of years.
Sure.
They're unapologetic.
The next matchup was AJ Styles versus Gunther. And this one, I am so confused about what happened here. I have no idea what the hell is going on. They're obviously pushing Gunther. Gunther, you can see, is gaining weight again. He got really, really lean or whatever when they did the big push, when he did the World Championship push. So AJ Styles was supposed to retire this year sometime. Gunther retired him in this match. But did he? Because he's doing the thing with the, he's got the special gloves that spell AJ when he does this. He takes the gloves off. He goes to lay him down. He picks him back up and leaves with the gloves. He didn't take his boots off and leave him in the ring. He didn't leave his gloves in the ring. Is he saying he's going back to TNA? Is he saying that he's not done in WWE? To me, a stipulation match has to mean something. If the stipulation isn't adhered to, then every stipulation match after that is pointless. So what in the hell are they doing here? Did AJ Styles get some injury that we don't know about?
It has to be something, right? Like, I feel like, I'm not saying it's planting the seeds automatically in a kayfabe aspect that they're going to have, wind up meeting each other at Mania. But I just feel like if they were going to do it, because Cena, even if you didn't like how Cena's went out, they had the whole retirement tour.
But it was the advertised last match.
Exactly. And there was a reasoning behind the way he smiled and tapped out. It was polarizing, but at least there was a reasoning behind it. There's no really true, obvious reasoning here. And I feel like I feel AJ, there's no way this is the last time we see him. I find that hard to believe. Maybe in the WWE, but I find it hard to believe we don't see him. I mean, because I know he is very adamant about retiring soon, and he was adamant about making this the last Raw. But it's also
AJ loves.
It's also the last couple of days, exactly. He does, and he's a family man, and he has been for a long time.
If you look so AJ's name is actually not AJ, but all of his kids named are AJ. Their initials are all AJ. And if you look on his right there in that image, you see the big AJ on his ribs. Underneath that are 4 lines for the birthdays of each of his kids that have the initial AJ.
And he's one of the few wrestlers who isn't married because he's old school and he's made his bones long before he came to the WWE and this became the norm. Wrestlers are now married and having kids on the road together, right? Because it's the law of proximity. Now, like if you look at the roster, more than half of them are either dating or married to each other. AJ's in that that line, that generation where that wasn't as common. So he has his wife and his kids that are home, and they've been home for a long time during this great career he's had. So you have to wonder eventually if he does want to pack it up. But I feel like just after 1 month in 2026, really?
Well, let me just throw this to one of the other guys here because we're talking a lot about stuff that they don't watch. But here is a $1 billion company that's been around for a long time that is all about inclusivity, is all about like all different things. They're pushing women, they're pushing different lifestyles and things like that. But they're making partnerships with the Republic of Saudi Arabia, where the women have to wear certain clothes, that they can't go out by themselves on the streets, that there are no LGBTQ rights over there. Sami Zayn had boycotted these shows for a long time because he's not Saudi, he's Syrian.
Yeah.
And because he supports LGBTQ. And so was Finn Balor wasn't going to these shows. And when he did finally go to the shows, he was still wearing his rainbow gear and stuff out in public. Like, how do you feel about a company like WWE, who is so in the forefront or whatever, making deals with the Saudi crown prince?
Oh, not great.
Yeah, there you go.
The question I do have is the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia every year now?
No, there was one before that was called the Greatest Royal Rumble, and it was kind of a gimmick where they had 40 men instead of 30. But they have made a long deal. Yeah. They've made a long-term deal with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia that they're going to hold a certain number of, they call them premium live events now. They used to be called pay-per-view, but the pay-per-view system hasn't existed since streaming, where they're going to hold 2 or 3 events every year in Saudi Arabia. And this year they took one of their big 4 events and did it there. That's the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. And I mean, look at anytime you mention Saudi Arabia, like it's a bunch of comedians going over. It's the biggest fights in boxing going down there because they're willing to fund it because they have all the money due to, we know why they have all the money. And this is the same type of thing. And, it's one of those things because initially it was very jarring, like Brendan said, when it was the greatest Royal Rumble 2018, and they were very kind of like careful and cautious with how they proceeded. Now they're getting a little more comfortable. But I would ask you this, because like you guys could all answer, Brendan, especially you, like as someone who will follow the event, but also as you know, people work in the entertainment industry, Erik and Paul. WrestleMania is going to be there next year. We have it in Vegas again this year. It's like back to back here.
They're going from Vegas to Saudi.
Exactly.
I hadn't heard that yet. I hadn't heard that. This is the first time. Wow.
It's already set. So WrestleMania in 2027 will be presented by Riyadh. And it's one of those things where you never thought maybe they would go that big, but at the same time, why wouldn't they? Because the Saudis are willing to do it. So it's one of those things where like, it's not a great look, but at the same time, if the Saudis keep proving what they're willing to do, even with, you know, the Live Golf Tour, I mean, like, what's going to stop it anytime soon, especially when all that matters in our line of work is green anyway, whether it's.
I want to point out to the other two gentlemen who didn't watch it and don't know also that this venue holds 35,000 people and they built it in 3 weeks. That did not exist. That was a parking lot at the beginning of January. They held this event in the third week of January.
Wow. Are you guys talking about wrestling? Is that what's going on?
Sort of. You know, wrestling isn't wrestling.
Yeah. Like me as a comedian, because I know that a lot of the comedians caught flack for going over there. Personally, they still are. Yeah. Personally, I would never go over there unless, of course, they invited me. Then I would definitely take the money.
Unless I was paid, which is exactly what the situation is unless I was paid.
Just like I want to attend your PokeCon, unless I'm invited, you know, and paid to go there. So I probably won't.
And I mean, Brendan, you know, CM Punk is about as, you know, has as much conviction as anybody in any realm or any line of work. And if CM Punk is ultimately going when it's all said and done, or Sami Zayn are ultimately, you know, they stand true to what they believe in, whether you like it or not.
Sammy showed up. That for me was just like, what in the world is happening?
Yeah.
Hey, let's go speaking of Sami Zayn, let's go to the next graphic. All right, so this is Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn. So obviously they're trying to get the local pop because Sami Zayn is Muslim. He comes down with I don't know what the headdress is called. The red and white headdress is a traditional, I don't want to call it the wrong thing. I want to be respectful. I don't know what it's called, but he comes down with that and he's wearing it. He knows the culture. He speaks the language. They love Sami Zayn. So a title match, which is one of the biggest mismatches, is is Drew McIntyre, who's 6'27", and Sami Zayn, who's 5'2". And and they had a banger, but the thing is like there is nobody in their right mind that would have thought Sami Zayn in a fair fight would take it from this dude. Like there's just no way. So this was a very strange match. You know, it was for the hometown crowd, whatever. I love Sami, but there was no part of me that thought Sami was going to walk away with the hardware after this.
Yeah, and honestly, even if it more so looked the part, I think now we'll talk about it in a minute, but now that we know what some of the dust is settling with the winner of the Rumble, who he's going to face, with who the other title match and who the opponent will be in that one, like it's starting to become a little more clear that Drew was going to win this either way. I get what you're definitely saying. It didn't really necessarily like look believable, but I also think that in a way, kind of like what Daniel Bryan got really big off of, or even, Rey
Daniel
Mysterio
Bryan had the martial arts, and I get it. When Sami Zayn was El Generico, I loved watching him because he had these great, and they took all that away.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Right.
And so that's a great point. He's always fighting from the bottom. You have
to be really stiff. And really sneaky, or you have to be a heel, because little heels like Dominic Mysterio, it's perfect because the little guy's not supposed to win, but he will hit you with brass knuckles. He'll take off his boot and slap you. You know what I'm saying? Like
you have the dastardly tactics, and Sammy being such a good guy and being such almost a virtuous character, right? The underdog from the underground, he almost has no edge to him. I don't mean that in a bad way, because he's an incredible athlete, an incredible performer, honestly, one of the best in the world, but he doesn't have really any kind of edge to him. And that's what they've been pushing to the crowd, because it's kind of like Mikey Whipwreck, right? The fact he's a much better worker, a much better talent, but he builds sympathy by people, right? X-Pac, like people beating down on
the
him.
Lightning Kid, the Kamikaze Kid, he tried on 6 different names.
1, 2, 3 Kid, right?
Before they tried him out against Razor Ramon or whatever, and they say that it was a work. But it very well could have been a shoot. Like there's lots of different things and the lore of it, like how did this happen? Whatever. And then, Razor Ramon slapping the shit out of the kid every time and him getting some sneaky little win because of some technicality, whatever. That was the whole storyline build up. But let's get into.
But I do like, if I say one more thing, I like how you do bring that up, because wrestling's all, maybe not so much nowadays, but in theory, right? Ideally, wrestling is supposed to be at the suspension of disbelief. And at least when you see a smaller guy who has like a martial arts submission grappling type of background, maybe he missed an MMA, maybe he was a great amateur wrestler, then you think maybe he can go in a real shoot. Sammy, like you said, is generico, and he was the crazy, deranged luchador who was like, not even a real
thought
Mexican.
He was Mexican, right?
Exactly. That was like the badass version, but we'll never get that version again. So it also just kind of shows what WWE has in mind.
With his red hair and his pasty white skin underneath a mask, going as a luchador El Generico.
But what a great gimmick.
And you guys, really, both of you who have fallen asleep at this point, should go back and watch some of those El Generico tapes, because they are very, very entertaining. He had, the brain buster, anyway. All right.
It's awesome.
So the men's rumble. Now this one, well, just skip the lead there, Erik.
I love it. Go right. It's like, don't bury it, baby. Let's go right into the headline.
The run of show literally says run this image. So,
but you know what? In a way, it's almost fitting because
wait, who made this run of show? We need to somebody's getting fired.
Damn him.
Someone is.
But I kind of like that we get right to the chase, because at the end of the day, we can like dissect like what actually happened, and we will. But at the same time, let's just jump right out to it. Like, who had this on their bingo card? Because I don't think it was necessarily surprising, but once it actually happened, it was kind of like, okay, they actually are going with Roman, right?
I love Roman Reigns. I love that he has the cancer story. He survived lymphoma. I hope that with this, they're setting him up for a run where he's going to be on television. But if he's going to be absent the way that he has been absent over the last several years, where he's only showing up 2-3 times a year, I think this is the worst booking decision they could have made.
I get you. And I will say this. I'm more optimistic now that we've seen who he's going to face. Because had it been a Cody trilogy, kind of would have been bummed out. They could always go back to that. And it still seems like, I don't know, like almost like subconsciously they want to do it. But in the immediate moment, I do like the fact that it's now that we know as of Monday Night Raw, it's going to be Punk. We saw a semblance of what they could do last year with the triple threat match with Rollins. Obviously, they have a past that kind of, Punk was on his way out when Roman was starting to take off. There's some ego there. There's some personal history there, a little bit of bad blood. And the promo they delivered was a banger. So if nothing else, even though, like you said, Roman's a part-timer, which does hurt him at times, Roman's gimmick with Punk's gimmick, me personally, those are probably the two most interesting characters, at least in WWE wrestling or WWE television, of the last 15 years. When you look at what Punk was able to do in the summer of Punk, and then even since coming back, and what Roman's been able to do since turning heel, I mean, that has moved the needle as much as anybody. So I do like the fact we're going to get to see them with their own build-up.
And even if he ends up being a transitional champion, I think that Reigns makes a lot more sense as a transitional champion than Punk does at this point in his career. Because that was a total swerve that happened because of like legitimate injury and things that were going on. But okay, so the men's Royal Rumble match started with Obafemi, and Oba's getting a big, big push. He's got the look. The dude is massive. He's a worker. He just got brought up from NXT. And this is what I was talking about with Charlotte, is that Charlotte got those, 60 minutes in, and that could have been any of the ladies that are coming up. Obafemi looked like a monster for those first 5 or 6 people that came in that were immediately eliminated. They looked like they were going to feed everybody in the Rumble to Obafemi. But then he was eventually eliminated, but they booked him so strong. He was in for so long, and he was decimating every single person that came in. That's how you write the new guys that are coming up that you're going to push. That's how you write the new women that are coming up that are going to be pushed. Like Jordynne Grace is a monster, and I don't know why they're not booking her as a monster, because she's got the look, she's got the talent, she's got the ability. She's my friend. Anyway,
well, it's funny too, because like in terms of people working conventions and podcasters and wrestling media, she is one of the most media friendly people on earth. Like if you could get her for an interview, any chance you could get, you're going to get a great interview and also establish a pretty cool working relationship.
Do we want to
she's
try
just
and
so
get Jordynne?
professional.
Because I think I have.
Absolutely.
Okay.
She's an awesome interview. But I will say this, that's a great point, Brendan, because what did you just say? It's a great way to establish someone. The man we're looking at right here on the screen, if you're listening and you're not clear, filled in by now, it's Roman Reigns. What did they do for him in 2014, which was CM Punk's last WWE appearance until he came back? They made Roman break Kane's record, which stood for like 15 years. And ever since then, Roman has been the guy. Obviously, he hasn't been the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, but he has been the main event, WrestleMania 7-8 times over, 2-time Royal Rumble winner. And his first big moment, even when he was still with the Shield, was in Rumble 2014 when he just went off on a tear. So I think you're right. There may not be a better way to truly establish someone as a badass monster than have him just start dumping people in the Rumble.
Right. And the thing is like by having him eliminated, it doesn't hurt him at all because he destroyed 6-7 guys. All right. So let's talk about. I love that Matt Cardona is back in WWE. I worked a show with Matt. It was ToyCon. Mick Foley was supposed to be at ToyCon. He was in a car accident, and so he obviously wasn't able to make it. And they were able to call Matt because Matt lives in Las Vegas, and Matt came down. He set up. He was a great guy to talk to. Had some great conversations with him. And he's booked. He was booked through like November. And he had to cancel all those bookings to go back to WWE. So I like that he came back, that he had a good showing. And then for AAA, so many people they could have brought in. Vikingo, and who did they bring? Mr. Iguana.
Mr. Iguana, our reptilian friend.
What?
And for all you conspiracy theorists, no, I do not mean it like that.
What the heck? What?
Okay, I have a question, and this is based on
shoot.
This is based entirely on the fact that Dan Houser is this crossover guy, right? Is this dude AEW? Because this feels like AEW to me.
It's not. It's AAA. So
that's
comedy,
what's so funny about it.
It is a comedy gimmick. He does bring the iguana into the ring with him. So Mick Foley had Mr. Socko, where he'd pull a dirty gym sock out of his crotch and put it on his hand and stick it in your mouth. What was his name? Santino would do the same thing with a snake glove, and he'd hit you with it like it was striking you, right? There is a place for comedy wrestling because when you think about it, you get down to the base of what we're watching a bunch of dudes and women in tights dancing. They're doing ballet and flips and all kinds of stuff, right? It is silly. And when you get down to it, it's funny. And this guy warms up the crowd. They all love him and stuff. But when you talk about who is missing from this show, the other one that they did that was a comedy gimmick was El Grande Americano. There's two versions of him now because Chad Gable is back off of injury. So they had Kaiser step in, but now there's original and there's two versions of Grande Americano. So they had two Grande Americanos. They had Mr. Iguana, but you know who's missing from this Royal Rumble? Joe Hendry. You know who's missing from this Royal Rumble? Kofi Kingston. You know who's missing from this Royal Rumble? Finn Balor, Aleister Black, Shinsuke Nakamura.
And it's glaring.
But you've got this guy in there with his lizard puppet.
And it's a great point because I'm just going to say this. I'm not going to go into specifics. And if, Paul and Eric want to enlighten themselves, they can with the internet machine. Joey Ryan. That's all I'm going to say. And Brent, if you get the reference, you know exactly what I mean as far as a weapon. That's all.
You guys don't want to look that up.
Exactly. It's one of those things where you may now want to be privy to it, but you'll immediately regret that you did. But it's also a reflection of where we are in wrestling because sometimes I think, and Brent, you may have a strong opinion on this, when you eliminate kayfabe so much, I get that WWE goes with the whole idea, we're in on it. The fans are in on it. This is entertainment, not a sport. But when you present that too far, like over one side to where you eliminate the suspension of disbelief, then it's not fun because the whole idea of wrestling, that's why I don't like the guys who are overly flippy and, choreographed and make it look like it's acrobatic because the real high flyers, like the great high flyers, whether it be luchadors, whether it be, more North American based, from Rey Mysterio to more like, simple stuff like Shawn Michaels, they don't do it for the sake of doing it. They're not doing it to try to impress an audience or the commentators to hold up a bunch of signs that say 10, like it's a gymnastics competition. It's about telling the story because you're simulating a fight. And if you can't simulate an element of combat with your type of moves, whether they be aerial, technical, submission, brawler, funny, comedy, like if you can't, that's why Santino, it kind of worked because you could think about the Cobra, if you poke someone in the throat like that, it ain't going to feel good. So even with him, it kind of worked. But with this guy, Steve wouldn't even talk to me yesterday about some stuff when he told me he wasn't going to be on the show. There was a couple of thoughts that he had that I wanted to relay over. When you watch this guy throw punches, it's a bad look for both who's representing him like before he came over, right? Basically, it's a bad look representing his past stop, and it's a bad look representing on the side of WWE because, as you said, Brennan, they're keeping some of their top stars from making appearances who are going to put on a great show and not going to have this comedy slapstick element, and instead you have this, and it's not even well executed because the punches look corny and fake.
The Grande Americano, right? They could have had Kaiser coming out and get attacked by Chad Gable on the way out, and Chad takes his spot, and then they don't lose two spots, they lose one spot. There's lots of different ways they could do it. 100%. One other thing I want to point out before we move on to the next segment, because we're boring these other two dudes to death, is Royce Keys. So a massive dig at AEW because they're competitors, and whether you take them seriously as a company or not, they are WWE's biggest competitors at this point. So Powerhouse Hobbs was one of their big dudes over there. Like, the dude is massive. He's got a good look. He's a good worker. And they came and they blasted his music and they put his AEW name up there, Powerhouse Hobbs. And then they took it down and put up his new name, Royce Keys. And it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, you know him as this, but he's going to be so much better as this.
And that's an example of kind of the 180 of what we're talking about, how Mr. Iguana makes his past destination look, weaker as a result, or a lesser as a result. You are now making this guy's past look legit, but you're also showing that he's not necessarily that anymore because now he's in a new destination. That's good, like, transitional storytelling.
Yes, Paul.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could talk about Joey Ryan all day long. So are you, and maybe I misunderstood, are you saying that what he did is what that was too far compared to, the sock?
No, we're talking about there's a place for a comedy gimmick. So when you go to
but they take it
the
too
Nerd
far,
Bar,
to say
where
the
our
least.
friend Johnny Borchata has a wrestling ring in the back, that Micromania Wrestling does their thing there, right? There are things that play in a live audience with 60 people in the room or 100 people in the room. I don't know what the capacity is there. Joey Ryan does his thing in, an armory with 200 people that doesn't play for a national audience.
Yeah, but
his finishing move is comedy. It's pure comedy. If you're there watching it, it's hilarious.
It is not, because it really works. It's true that the King of Dong uses it to knock his opponents out. I mean, how do you even think that that's comedy? I know comedy. That's not comedy. That's a real. Is it a work? Is that what it's called? I don't know what it's called, but it works. I've seen it work. I've seen him take out.
Well, in that case, it'd be a shoot, Paul. If you thought it was real, it'd be a shoot. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him take out a line of guys, each like elephant trunk walking it, and then he takes them out of the ring.
This is why I'm happy I gave the frame reference, so that way Paul can provide.
I think I already made an Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference this show. Did I not?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Okay. But there's another one, The Gang Wrestles for the Troops, and they're all in on the joke, and they're like, oh, we're going to make this look good. And Frank doesn't believe that wrestling is not real. And then he ends up almost murdering a guy in the ring by accidentally cutting him. And he goes, see, I told you this shit was real.
Let me ask one more question before we do move on. Because we briefly kind of teed it up. I think it may have even been the Patreon. The Brock Lesnar jobber elimination. Oh. What's the deal with that? And is there going to be an explanation?
There are so many things that were mishandled. I believe that this was a good match at the end to kind of save a mid-show, but it wasn't a great match for a Royal Rumble. I love the Royal Rumble. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite pay-per-views. I watch the classics all the time. I love them, but like so the timer is supposed to be 30 seconds or whatever it is, and we talked about this too. Sometimes it's 45, sometimes it's 20, depending on what's going on in the ring. Yeah. Because they don't want to miss something like Brock Lesnar getting eliminated, and here's Brock Lesnar taking a bump over the top rope while Jey Uso is doing his yeet thing to the crowd. And again, the comedy thing, the crowd interaction, the yeet. It's something that's important to the show. It adds production value, whatever. But your biggest star in the company, who's been the biggest star in the company for decades, gets ass over tea kettle over the rope, and the camera's looking over there. So if you didn't know, or they didn't say who eliminated or whatever, or see him walking back, you wouldn't know.
And that's the thing, because that's the way they do it, to put focus on the newest entrant, right? The newest participant, who also may be a full-blown superstar, who may have a big push coming.
Which, as soon as they hear the crowd start counting down, they're supposed to pause what they're doing, go into rest holds or whatever.
100%. Force each other in the corner, lean each other on the rope. And normally, when the camera cuts and it leans back to the ring, right, exactly. And normally when it cuts back to the ring, then you see the ring with a few less guys in it. And you see guys outside by the apron or by the barricade. And you're like, okay, that guy was going to get eliminated, but that was a way for them to do it. They clear out the ring as this next big superstar's coming in to make his big, badass, how do I put this? Surge, I guess you could say. And then if he throws a few guys out, it makes it that much easier. So now you've had 4 guys eliminated in the span of 15 seconds. Right. But they're always guys who are essentially expendable to the match, right? A guy comes in, he gets hot. A guy gets eliminated when you're not really looking. It's okay because you're not really jeopardizing the match. When you eliminate Brock Lesnar that way, you are, and you're also kind of confusing the audience as to why he got the job or elimination. It'd be one thing if you got eliminated completely out of the blue, like let's say someone comes in, they get hot, they start working all their moves,
well, it's like
and then they toss Lesnar.
The Maven elimination of the Undertaker.
Of the Undertaker, there was a reason for that.
So
they built something off of it.
Was a young up and coming talent. He gets into the ring, and the Undertaker had thrown somebody out. He's standing too close to the ring. Maven comes up behind him and dumps him on the top. Undertaker is the biggest draw in the company at this point, and this kid who's been in the company for 2 weeks throws him over the top rope. Guess who's getting pushed? Maven.
Right.
Even though he got his ass kicked, because now he's starting a program with the Undertaker where he's going to get his ass kicked in 16 cities over the next 4 weeks. And it's considered one of the great, because you said you watched the classics. That and the 02 Rumble, because I think it was 02, is one of the greatest Rumble. Like I remember JR on the call, Maven has eliminated the Undertaker. Right. It's something that stands out. And even though Maven didn't have a great career, it made him in the immediate moment. Who's going to be made by eliminating Brock Lesnar? Because the camera, if you wanted to make someone by eliminating Brock Lesnar, you wouldn't cut the camera or do it during an entrance. It was just very weird. Watch me pull Paul Vato back in right here. I was at my kids. Go ahead.
I've got a question.
Yes.
So I can't help but notice that this guy Logan Paul is on the list. How seriously is wrestling taking him? Because
you know what?
The rest of the internet,
great question.
Stop taking him seriously.
Great question.
He's an athlete.
Nobody did, and so the heel gimmick for him is that he's this podcaster. Oh, wrestling is easy. I can fight. Let me do this thing, right? But in real life, he took it so seriously and trained so hard. Out of respect for the business and the entertainment and for the money that he's getting paid, he really did go out and learn it. So there's a spot that's called Coast to Coast where a guy is standing on this ring post and he'll hit somebody who's like in the corner on the other side, right? Logan Paul can hit that spot. There's like 3 guys I can name off the top of my head who can hit that spot cleanly, right? But then there's a guy named Ricochet who's now in AEW. Ricochet did a lot of this stuff where he would fly off the top of the rope. Like he would climb up the ropes in the middle of the ropes, not in the corner, in the middle of the ropes and slingshot, right? So he and Logan Paul at the same time run up the ropes and go across and double clothesline each other in the middle of the ring to fall down and take a safe bump in the middle of the ring.
And that was in the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago. That was actually in the Royal Rumble match. Yeah.
Of 2 other guys who could hit that cleanly. Right.
Logan Paul has the perfect example, Erik, of when you take a great athlete, which he is, say what you want about him, and actually that he's serious about applying the storytelling crafts, right? A lot of great athletes come in and they're duds because they can't get the psychology.
Right.
Logan Paul has the psychology down.
He is a natural heel.
And is the most natural heel you could possibly ask for. I'm going to be honest, Erik, if he gone directly into, obviously he wouldn't have gotten the same type of push, but had he just started as a pro wrestler, we probably would have a much more positive connotation about him. But since he's a YouTuber, podcaster, influencer type of guy, he never would have gotten the push. So,
but if he didn't have the business ethic from coming up as a podcaster or whatever, I don't think he would have taken it seriously. That's the thing. He had to do it exactly the way he did it. So the Japan, the Suicide Forest thing, and him being rich and him being cocky and doing all the fight stuff that he does with his brother, Jake Paul, right? Yeah. Being his hype man and stuff like that. He comes in already with a heel following where people love to hate that guy because of who he is, but you can't fault his in-ring skills or his mic skills at all. He has dedicated himself so much to it that you want him to fail and he just won't.
It's the worst thing you could do with a heel in wrestling or feel about a heel is apathy. If you don't care about what the heel is doing, no matter how talented he may be, it's done. And a baby face, you could at least be a little apathetic because it's okay, right? They're the good guys, whatever.
Right. You're cheering for the good guy just because they're the good guy.
To defeat the bad guy. It's like when I say about sports. It's like what I say about sports. There are no true heroes in sports. There are only villains in sports, and the heroes we crown are the people who defeat the villains as a result. It's a de facto type of, coronation. Logan Paul is literally the most natural heel you could possibly ask for. So he's found, Erik, to really just answer your question, he has found the best possible place where he could combine the influencer, social media, podcast stuff with his great athleticism.
Well, and then he integrates it really well, too, because he's bringing the wrestlers onto his podcast, and he's keeping kayfabe on there by treating him like shit but the other thing is you'll notice if you watch a show, there's a big cart of his energy drink right there with a massive, and they've got the logo in the middle of the ring. Like he's got so much money, he doesn't need to wrestle, but he'll buy ad space on the ring apron. Like it's so ridiculously well crafted, and that all comes from him. And that's the thing.
And since his show is no doubt about it, he's so natural, it's almost like uncanny. And that's why him being hateable in the world of professional wrestling makes you want to compliment him, right? Him being hateable on the internet or social media, no, makes you roll your eyes and want to throw your phone on the wall. But on wrestling television, he's perfect. And the way he can work a match with practically anyone in the company, because he's so committed to everything regarding the bumps, regarding the psychology and the story.
The other thing is, people will make fun of him for rehearsing the match, right? Because a lot of the guys will just do spots.
Yeah.
They go, hey, I'm going to do this, you do this, I do this, whatever. But because now each match has a producer, there's these guys in the back that are wearing headsets and gorilla, and they go out to the ring with their talent every time. They go, okay, so here's the spot, here's the spot, here's the spot. Do you want to run any of that? And they'll do like the high spots to make sure that everybody's in the spot they're supposed to be or whatever. But they'll do like 2 or 3 things out of a 10-minute match, right? Logan Paul will go in there and do every spot of the match because he wants to make sure that he knows where he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to do for every single thing that producer is telling him to do.
And before we go to a break, just to, go a little inside baseball here for Erik and Paul, even though Paul's, knocked the F out or, incarcerated apparently. But that's really what it is, because for the longest time, people were wondering, is he going to be more of a guy who calls it on the fly? Right. Cena was kind of the last of that guard. Cena was like famous for to the point where you could get a YouTube compilation of Cena talking to his opponents, telling him what to do next. Right, exactly, too.
Between segments.
And that's another thing. Like, there's so much that they're just basically trying to throw in your face to say it's kayfabe's dead. But every now and then when you get someone who reminds you that it's still supposed to be there, it's just perfect. And the psychology of the actual industry, particularly in North America, is different than it's ever been, because like Brennan just said, it can be overly produced. Sometimes these agents, these producers backstage get a little too involved, but sometimes you could just tell when 2 guys or 2 women are really just organically letting it flow. It's a rarity, but whenever it happens, it's still the best thing in wrestling. It really is.
Yeah.
No.
Correct. All right. So let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to do the comics, and I've got a story for Paul.
Peppermint Patty's the worst.
Comicon.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews, previews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comicon.com.
One of these days I'm going to have to get Steve to write down which segment is sponsored by which sponsor. I know there's 3 of them already, but I always forget when he's not here, like who's sponsoring which. So Johnny at the Nerd Bar, TSB Bakery, I know is one.
Vato.
There's a few other.
Lava Packs.
Lava Packs, right. Lava Packs, yeah, them. And Comic-Con, of course, yes. Comic-Con also lends us 2 of their best on-screen talent for this show. So we want to thank them a lot.
Will they be showing up anytime soon, or?
Nice. So I wanted to mention this because we were talking about wrestling in the last segment, and we were talking about Paul Vato in the last segment, because when you talk about Paul Vato, Paul pays attention. But so I was at my kid's house last week. Send Paul praise, yes. And it was funny because we were talking about that commercial that you were just talking about for the Patreon segment where you are playing the Executioner. What I did not realize So I was telling my kid about it. I couldn't find the link, so I called Paul. I was like, "Hey, Paul, send me links because I want to see this one and this one and this one and the one where you fall through the whatever." The one where he falls through is very prominent, but I couldn't find the Texas DOT one that he had done, which is the one where he's a luchador. He sends me links, and the first one I look at is the commercial in Spanish. So not only did they hire improv comedians to do it, they had to hire improv comedians that were bilingual, and the commercial is funnier in Spanish than it is in English. I enjoyed that one so much more than the English one because he came off as like super whiny or whatever in the English version, but in the Spanish version, he's just a dude who's committed to his craft, whose feelings are genuinely hurt, so he's sensitive. But like, Paul, you didn't tell me there were two versions of that. And then after the call was over and I was showing my son the thing, he goes, you were able to just call Paul Vato on your phone? And I was like, yeah. I work with the guy every week. Like, his phone is on here. I text him and stuff. We talk on the phone. But he was more impressed that I know Paul Vato and that you're in my cell phone than any of the celebrities that are also in my cell phones.
I was going to actually ask you if maybe you would stop those calls. I mean, it's really, if you want to call me on Owl, the Owl app. Use referral code Vato. Sign up to Owl, and you can get paid for your expertise. But you can also call me on Owl, and at $8 for 10 minutes, I will gladly talk to you all day long.
Now, do you have the luchador mask that you wore in that? Because if you still have that, you could do cameos as the Executioner.
I had it at one point because they actually, the director was like, you got to cut out the eyes more because it was like a normal mask. And he goes, he has such great expressions. He goes, we got to cut out the eyes. So they ended up like making it just for me and cutting out the eyes and sewing it and all that. I'll have to look for it, and it's probably in storage in Vegas.
You are on Cameo,
somewhere.
right?
I am on Cameo. Yes.
Okay, so let me tell you guys, and I don't know if he advertises this or not, but Paul Vato is just as funny, if not funnier, in Spanish than he is in English. So if you do get a cameo of Paul Vato, go ahead and get that Spanish option because the dude will do it, and it's funny. And
Gracias.
I never saw the
ask for the
Spanish
hedgehog
version.
suit. Ask for the hedgehog suit. Yes. Be sure to ask for that.
Makeup, because I also showed him the show, the Hedgehog show, and he thought that was hilarious. But the makeup on that is so kind of cheesy and hokey that you could actually do that yourself with grease paint, right?
Yeah, I could do that.
Nice. All right, let's get on to this week's Comics Keys. The first one we're going to talk about here is Absolute Wonder Woman 26 Annual #1. This is a one-shot. They're doing the annual with it. It's a self-contained story that follows Wonder Woman as she sets out to free Medusa, and you see the snakes and the imagery on there. The solicit says the experience of briefly becoming Medusa in order to save Gateway City changed Diana. It haunts her, and she's never stopped seeking an answer from the gods. Her pleas to Athena have gone unanswered until now. If she wants justice, the mission is deadly and uncertain. Is it worth the risk to set right one injustice? So we have, this is the main cover here. And then we have an alternate on this that's done by Dennis. I don't know if this is Dennis or Denise. I apologize, but it's Dennis or Denise Cowan, and this is cover D. So the first one there leans heavily into the Medusa story, and I just thought this one was so badass that we had to show it.
I believe it is Dennis Cowan. I believe it is Dennis, because presumably this is the same Dennis Cowan that did all the art for the Question series back in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, so, cool. And Brett has left, so he has no opinion.
So...
what do you think of this one, Paul?
I love it, but I can't see anything.
What happened to your monitor?
He's on the phone.
I just see the three of us. I don't see a key.
You've got to change your view, because whatever view you're on, you can't see the image that's on there. Erik, you got to go back to the image because now he's trying to adjust.
I thought Erik, it's got to be my phone though. Then, but
I think it's the phone interface.
Okay, well, he said he loves it, so
love it.
Think of this cover here. That's the cover A. Brett's looking at the.
Oh, damn it! Yeah, I don't see him. I'm sorry. I'll use my laptop next week. Sorry about that. I just see your mugs.
You really don't? Is this like the first?
I've seen it before though.
Okay. Well, I mean, as long as you have context.
Oh, you know
way.
what? I'll look on the email.
I was gonna say, I thought that's what you were doing all along anyway. But no, I mean, as we were talking about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, Absolute line. I think that the traction's is going to carry over. The momentum's going to carry over from 25 to 2026. And now, I mean, obviously Batman was the headliner, but now that you're expanding to other aspects of DC, I mean, we've waxed poetic on and on. We've sung the praises, and this is just another reason why. I mean, this looks badass. Mm-hmm. You know, you have an element, the mythological type of element of Wonder Woman that they don't always tap into. You're getting a lot of that here in addition to the Absolute type of aesthetic, if you will.
Well, and one-shots are a great way to bring people in because it is
always
self-contained as a story. And a lot of times with these annuals, they'll go, you know, instead of 22 to 26 pages, they might go 36 to 40. And sometimes they even go double size.
Get all over the place, right?
Yeah. So
it's one. Is $5.99 now about what we can expect to pay for a comic? Or is this because this is an annual one-shot?
At that price point, I would guess that it's at least 40 pages of story. Because it's an annual, because it's oversized, that's going to be the $6 price tag from DC. They're usually at $3.99, I think. Yeah, cool.
Got it.
And traditionally, annuals do cost more. So yeah.
All right, the next one up is DC KO #4. This one has the first meeting and the battle of absolute universe versions of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman versus their mainstream comic continuity counterparts. So you've got the alternate versions versus the regular versions, and that's pretty cool. So it says the Final Four are put to the absolute test. 3 mysterious new Omega charged fighters have entered the tournament, and this trinity of the absolute will change the face of DCU forever. It's all down to how far the Final Four are willing to go in the penultimate chapter of DCKO. Plus, Booster's true allegiance is revealed. Darkseid's return is foretold, and a bonkers last page that will bring the battle to the next level.
It's good solicit. I'll say that.
You get solicit.
Yeah.
Your bonkers last page reveal, Spider-Man.
I love it.
I'm just putting it out there. It's Spider-Man.
Multiversal clash.
Do you guys remember when WCW got sued for Arachnaman?
What year was that? Was that when they were already like way underneath?
I don't know, but it was
the end was near. It was imminent.
It was God, what's his name? It's Road Dogg's brother. Jesse Armstrong? No,
Right.
Jesse Armstrong
No,
is
Jesse
Road
is
Dogg.
Road Dogg. Yeah.
Brad Armstrong. It was Brad Armstrong. And he was wearing
the referee. He was
wearing a yellow suit with purple lines on it. That was an exact copy of Spider-Man, but they called it Arachnaman, and he was doing all the flip stuff in the ring. And immediately Marvel was like cease and desist, and you never saw the character again.
Arachnaman.
Yeah.
No, man,
And
this looks pretty cool. Oh, go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna
you
say,
have more knowledge on this than me.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I just think it looks really cool because it's at a time where, I mean, for those watching and listening, it may seem like the running joke on the show is that we're, trying to not diminish Marvel, but we're trying to take some of the shine away from Marvel and put it on DC. That's not really the case. It's more so it's at a time where DC is kind of gradually working its way back in the public interest. Marvel, we know, is there. I mean, Marvel's like the NFL. It's like McDonald's. It's such a big brand at this point. They don't need to do much. CFL? Yeah, right, exactly. For the longest time, I mean, it kind of was. And now DC is slowly becoming more of like a big-time college football, right? Or even like Major League Baseball has been the past couple of years.
In 2011, they were the XFL.
Right. No, 100%.
Like, that's how rough things got for DC.
100%.
I would say they were the XFL in 2011.
And at one point, like the XFL with a little bit of, arena football and a little bit of like lingerie league. Like it was an absolute mess because there was a
Wait, the lingerie league, it's funny because you threw that in there as a joke, but that's so fitting because they really did go to the basis thing, like put the girls in bikinis and Yeah.
And with no clear-cut direction, because at least Marvel, whether Feige had it in his mind all along or whether he did it, at least he could make, kind of like George Lucas, he could make it seem like there's a linear element to where it did seem like there was a conception and then here is the actual execution of it. DC never even had a conceived idea. And now you have to separate the comics from the movies, but working in the media as we do, we know that the public, consensus and the reputation that surrounds these is often very much moved by movies and cartoons and video games. And that's something that DC's been a lot more inconsistent at. Now they're starting to refine that. And I don't necessarily know if the comics as a result are going to get really good, but at least they seem cool again. And when you see stuff like this, and when you see stuff like the Absolute line, it's kind of a reminder that DC is cool again. It's not that Marvel's not, it's just that now we have two that are cool kind of simultaneously. And that's been rare.
And there's two things about this that worked really well for them in the past. And that's Injustice. It's the idea of alternate versions of, right? And then you've got Snyder on it. And Snyder is the guy when it comes to like, he's been the strongest. Whenever DC has had a failed project, whatever Snyder contributed to it was the strongest of what was going on. So it's a good writer for the series to bring this kind of punch. And it's also that idea of like, here's a, 5 degrees off of reality version of the ones that and bringing them together to fight against each other is a brilliant idea.
And multiversal stuff, I mean, it's just trendy. We're seeing it everywhere now, even with things that are outside the comic book medium. A couple of years ago, a multiversal-related movie won an Oscar, and it was a phenomenal movie at that, and everything, everywhere, all at once, right? Like, it's becoming a thing that it's tapping into kind of like the public consciousness where it's not just a comic book trope anymore.
Sure.
But I mean, the crazy thing is, historically, DC was the first
Crisis on
out there with the multiverse.
Crisis on Infinite Earths is 1986. That's way before everything with, or at least around the same time as the original Secret Wars, but way before the Jonathan Hickman run that we're talking about now with the movie.
Right, Paul.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Next up is Ultimate X-Men number 24. This one is a comics key because it is the finale. It says, I hope you survived the experience. It's time to say goodbye to Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men. But what does the future hold for our favorite misfit mutants? How will they survive the world war that has broken out? And what happened to Armor? Now, Peach Momoko, I don't know who's been watching this, but she does the writing and the art and everything, right? She's like a full, and her artwork is so distinctive. And that's one of the things about comics. They're so cookie cutter a lot of the times, especially when we're talking about capes. And here she is coming in with this watercolor, like influenced, by Eastern art and things in there. And it is absolutely gorgeous. I don't care what's going on in the story. I just want to look at the pictures.
Our reviewer at Comic-Con has just been like singing its praises the whole time too. Like he is absolutely in love with this book.
And cookie cutter is a perfect way to describe it in terms of just really just comic books in general, because the copy and paste, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The problem is if it may not be broke, but it's never necessarily getting better either, right? You're kind of just pushing it off to the side. This feels like taking a step. This feels like something that is, a proactive step because it's something different. And I like what Brendan said, like, usually the storyline, the characters, the solicit for segments like this in the show week in and week out kind of move the needle more than the art in terms of my actual interest. The art is more so what I'll like actually talk about in terms of what captures my attention just visually, but it necessarily won't lead me to buy the book or like to want to read the book. It'll more so just make me compliment the look of it. This actually makes me intrigued because, as Brendan says, I don't even care about the storyline. It's Ultimate X-Men. Ultimate X-Men's been around forever now, and there's so many different versions of it. At this point, though, this is a version that I really don't know anything about. And I kind of like that because I'm left in the dark and now kind of hooked in by this cool artwork.
Right, Paul?
Right, Paul? That was solid.
That is correct.
Are you able to pull this up right now? Okay, are you seeing this cover? Because this is it's an X-Men cover, and this can't look like anything you've seen before as far as what the X-Men.
Never. But I love it, and I'm just intrigued by the name Peach. What is it? Momoko.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I've seen it disambiguated as Momoko, and I've seen it written as one word. So I don't know how she's doing it. I know it is a pseudonym because I've seen her actual name, but I don't know how to say it. But I just love Momoko. I like it's just a fun sound.
It's pronounced Peach. Dummy. No, I'll go out and find this. I was literally thinking just because of the beauty of that artwork and the Asian influence, I guess. And it's beautiful art. I mean, it's enough to get me to go out and pick it up or send Paul Comics. Yeah,
right. Send Paul Comics. Next one up is Cyclops #1. This one has a few first appearances in it. It's got a first appearance of a Reaver named Tearjerker and a new teenage mutant who helps against the Reavers. So there's a new person on either side. It says the one-eyed X-Man is unleashed. Scott Summers is a mutant who is always in near total control of his powers and emotions. But what happens when wait, hold on. Isn't like every Cyclops storyline about him losing control of his emotion and his powers? That's not the
same thing. And the point of conflict within him is how he tries to grasp that and reel
every major storyline, right?
Including like outside the comics and animation and live action, like everything.
It's his romantic life that's a mess, and he can't control it anyway. Okay. But what happens when he's separated from the X-Men, lost in a mountain wilderness without the visor that keeps his depth? Okay, that also happens in every storyline. He loses the visor. Okay. And will he be able to stay alive when Donald Pierce and his cyborgs, the Reavers, are hunting him? It's a tale of the X-Men's leader at his most savage core. This sounds like the same exact stuff in a different setting, and that's not a bad thing, but don't sell it like it's new because it's not.
It's true. Like if you want to do cookie cutter because that's safe and easy, that's fine. But stop trying to act that like it's like something that's unprecedented or never seen before, once in a lifetime or generation. It's not. It's the same old thing. It's a rehashing, right? Kind of like how Star Wars fans keep saying they want new Star Wars content.
Dies. Batman's busted up. He gets a new one. It just keeps
rinse, wash, repeat. And it's like what we say about Star Wars. Like everyone says they want something new away from Tatooine and the Jedi. And every time we get it, the internet implodes inward on itself, and everyone complains, and they have to go right back to the drawing board and give us the Skywalkers and Tatooine. Inevitably, it's just one of those things. I will say Cyclops is kind of re-entering the public eye, kind of having a little bit of a renaissance because for a long time we haven't gotten to see Cyclops in the mediums like cartoons and movies kind of be the leader that he is in the comics. Now with X-Men 97, we're getting that point of emphasis. Apparently, when one of the 4 marketing or the 4 teasers, a part of the the Doomsday early marketing, he got one of them along with the other X-Men. But the coolest shot of all of them was the optic blast. Like it seems like they're really trying. I'm not saying it's in unison with the movies, but it seems like Cyclops is kind of like trying to get back in the forefront a little bit. And it's good to accompany that with comics. But as Brendan said, don't falsely advertise it as something that has never happened before.
Here's the thing that's only happened 100 times before, but it's happening for the first time now.
Right. Like, what the hell?
Well, and I was going to gig this because I hadn't read the solicit. Sometimes I'd like to get a cold read on it because I want to have like an honest reaction. But I was going to gig this cover because of the direction that the eye laser is pointing. But now that they're telling me it's broken, that he doesn't have control over it. Okay, so now it's going out sideways. I get it.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. Right, Paul?
That's right, because it does look like he's all wall-eyed over here, and but it's broken. So what's a guy with one eyeball supposed to do?
And speaking of rinse, wash, repeat, Brennan, who do we have next?
Wade Wilson, Deadpool #1. We all know exactly what this is going to be, and that's one of the things about Deadpool that you know you're going to get. You're going to get gratuitous violence, you're going to get inappropriate jokes, but that is the formula. People want that. They're going to sell it as long as people are wanting it, and they're going to want it forever. So dangerous, unhinged, deadly Deadpool, a man on the brink. And that means the jobs are deadlier, the stakes are higher, and the humor is darker than ever before. But Wade Wilson isn't laughing. A dark memory haunts Deadpool as a mysterious client leads him down a troubling path. This way lies redemption? No, something far worse. Wade can never be forgiven for what he's done. The new ongoing series begins. Now, what I like about this is, in opposition to the previous solicit, is they're telling you, we've done this a bunch of times, we're just doing it again. Go out and get it.
They're not beating around the bush, right?
It is what it is. Deadpool doesn't make any damn sense. It's just entertaining. There's no continuity. There's no reason for it, but it's fun to read.
And that's a great point, because since he's become so popular and since Ryan Reynolds has added his own spin on it, we're trying to like have our cake and eat it too. Deadpool is supposed to be so like flippant and casual with everything. It's not supposed to be a part of the main canon that swings all these crazy events in the Marvel universe. And anytime it is where he does interact with those characters on a grand scale, it's usually spoof or parody or a one-off type of thing. That's just for the fun of it. And that was the appeal of the first two movies. If there was one thing about the third one, Wolverine, as fun as it was, you wonder, okay, yeah, it kind of ties in the MCU, but how is it going to lead into everything with the Avengers? The first two Deadpool, you didn't care. If you got maybe an X-Men reference here and there about the Xavier Mansion, that was all you needed and you were good. So, and me as a sportscaster, every now and then, like when things get so stagnant with a certain team or a certain player or a certain storyline, I'll even say on air, look, I've given my opinion 1,000 times over. I'm done analyzing. I'm done prognosticating until I see something new. Then I'll have maybe a new opinion. So like Brendan said, my opinion on Deadpool remains the same. It's mostly a positive opinion, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm super excited about something new. That's not going to even be that new.
Like if you were holding two katana up in front of you, how would you hold it? Would you hold it like this or hold it like this?
Like as far as, like he's doing the cover? Right, like crossing it looks cooler.
He's doing this because his thumbs are on the bottom.
That's a good point. Because you look, he's not doing it. He's not doing it that way. Because
it would be like this naturally, right?
That's his index knuckle.
He's sort of doing this.
That's very weird.
No, because you can see the tip of the thumb on both sides. He's holding it like this.
Yeah, because look at the top knuckle is the index knuckle for sure. No, Brendan's right, but they're crossed at the same. So he's probably just like pressing them against each other like this. That is weird.
That's weird positioning.
That's a good point. I wouldn't have noticed that. Wow.
I would hold him like this.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. That's usually what you, even with it's Wolverine.
So the thumbs would be up.
Right.
Even the thumbs down.
Even like Elektra, like she's always holding, like her.
Well, and that would at least be a nod.
Sai?
Katana?
Sai.
Sai are the three-pronged things that Raphael has.
Sai, Elektra's the Sai. But even then, she holds him like this, and she like holds him upside down. Yeah.
Right, and it's cool because I hold him coming through the finger.
Yes.
I hold him this way so that you punch me, I'm blocking, I can still slash, I can come around, There
you go, Paul. Work those combinations, Paul.
Cool. So there's a variant for this one. And it's a 1 of 100 incentive variant, and it's done by Adi Granoff.
Amazing. I want it.
This is gorgeous. It's one of those things where, you sit there and you look at the medium of comics and you don't really expect, charcoals and pastels and stuff like that. But like this is in the style of, an artwork that you would hang on the wall.
It reminds you of those super like early to mid 2000s when like all of DC started doing it, right? With the pastels, it became like Eric's nodding. You know what I'm trying to think of what that was called or who the actual artist was who did that. Like even for years, you could go on like the Wikipedia pages of all the heroes, and that's like the stock image they use. They don't use like a Silver Age or even like
Alex Ross.
It was Alex Ross. It was Alex Ross, and it got to the point where it's all like you for a long time, almost like a decade or at least 6-7 years, when you thought of a DC character profile, it looked exactly like this. So I think it's cool. I think for superhero art, it always works.
Well, and also, not for nothing. This is a 1 of 100, so it's going to cost you probably $25-$30 to get this one because your retailer had to buy so many to get it. But if you were to get this and you were to find Adi Granoff at a convention, there's some great space right there around the figure where it's not all black in the background that he can sign. So this would be a great one to get signed, to get graded.
I'm on it.
Paul
All
wants
right.
it.
Paul's on.
The last
I want
one
it.
for this week. The last one for this week. So Vertigo, I don't know what's going on with Vertigo, but they dropped so many number ones this week. I just picked one that I thought that looked the most interesting, but you're going to find, I think there were, I'm not even exaggerating when I say that there were 12 of these that are coming out. So Vertigo is coming out with Bleeding Hearts number 1. It says the zombies won, and 10 years after the fall of humanity, their dominant form of life, or not life on Earth, they've developed their own cultural practices, their own language, their own society. Mouse pokes golf ball through the hole in head. Poke, for short, is a beloved member of his community. Oh, that's his name. Mouse pokes golf ball through the hole in head. Okay. Where his brother-in-arms Mush are happy to shamble along through the only world he can remember until the day his heart mysteriously starts beating again. And in a blink, the first human he sees have stopped looking like food and have started looking like friends. It sounded interesting. I like the cover. You've got this character who, it's a flip of the zombie trope where he is starting to become human again. It sounds like it could be fun. It's DC's darker line, Vertigo. There were so many of them and I've never heard of any of these. And this was the one that kind of stuck out to me as like, hey, I would probably read that because it's goofy horror,
Right. Sometimes an element of sappiness is what you want. I mean, Sam Raimi is literally a legend with that, and he has a movie coming out that's probably going to be one of the biggest releases of 2026, right? Mm-hmm. And that looks as intense as anything he's ever done. But even then, I guarantee you there will be an element of corn to it, right? He always adds the right amount of touch, and you kind of want that in horror, right? You do, because again, it's a suspension of disbelief. So absolutely. But the thing about this is that it also seems like, it could be like almost like a teen comedy type of thing as well, because I only know so much about it. But again, back to DC and at least some kind of, I won't say innovation, but maybe departure from what we normally discuss related to DC.
That was kind of the Vertigo mission statement the first time around was to do these sort of short run titles that had this energy and spark and kind of almost punk feel to it, right?
Right.
And definitely
an alternative.
That mission statement.
Now, is Vertigo more like, oh, I started Vertigo and then DC buys it, or do they just kind of spin off a category and call it Vertigo, and it's a new company but within DC?
Yeah, no, it was originally DC's imprint for their horror books. So back in the day, Sandman, John Constantine, Swamp Thing, and Doom Patrol, right? And then from that, it became, okay, we have all these British creators who have been writing our horror books. What else can they do?
And I think that's a great point, because if you look at what James Gunn is doing cinematically, that's what he's trying to do. With Snyder really try to beat home, the gods living among us thing. James Gunn is really trying to make it, the DC universe as a whole, seem super casual, that will heighten the stakes for Batman, Superman, whoever. But we could also do creature commandos or something like that, right?
Here's an education point that I'd like to go back to that just real quick. That is what Vertigo is. But just Paul, so when we talk about style guides, when we talk about, so one of the things when people are making submissions to comics labels like DC, Marvel, whatever, Dark Horse has a niche. They're the Hellboy guys. They do weird, kind of period horror and stuff. So you really want to know, when you're pitching as a potential writer or a comic book artist or whatever, what their style is. So you end up a lot of times with a sub-label of DC, and this is DC's sub-label for like weird horror. And so what may not fit into the main style that DC does would fit into one of their sub-labels. And the bigger the publisher is, the more sub-labels they're going to have or whatever. So Mad Cave's got Paper Cuts, which is young readers, right? So they do their style for the Mad Cave Studios, but then they have Paper Cuts for the young readers. And DC's got DC and Vertigo and Black Label. Right. So within the bigger genre, a lot of times there's these little offshoots, and sometimes they have nothing to do with what their main bread and butter is. But you will find that, several of these companies have different editorial teams for each
Right.
of the sub labels, and sometimes the sub label doesn't work, and so they'll just kill it. But Vertigo is this one of DC, and they've got a couple of others, but this is the type of stuff that you're going to find at Vertigo.
And that was my question for Erik, because it seems like these subtitles always mean well, like what you just say. They have a clear point, a clear purpose. Initially, they kind of ran out of steam, and then it kind of just seems like they're limping to the bar the rest of the way. Like, right, Erik? It seems like maybe Vertigo's one that actually remains true to what it intended to be, but sometimes like that gets lost in translation over a number of years, right?
I mean, that certainly was the case for Vertigo the last time around. I mean, because we're talking about all those DC connected horror books, right?
Right.
But then Vertigo also published Preacher, which is not in the DC universe, isn't really horror. But because they had that relationship with Garth Ennis anyway,
Yeah.
he was their home. It was like, well, here, I've got this idea, and DC ran with it as a Vertigo title for 75 issues, and that's sort of what Vertigo became. And then once their relationships with those British writers kind of fell away, that second or third generation of Vertigo writers and artists weren't producing titles that were selling, so DC killed the line for about 10 years.
And then they had to recalibrate, right?
Yeah.
Where would you guys see, which label, which house would you see the Hedgehog or Hedgehog comic falling
If you were
into,
really
like-
honestly going to pursue that. So the thing about your show is that it is very wholesome. It is aimed at a young audience. It doesn't talk down to the young audience. I would see that as one of the young adult labels, possibly even, one of the preschool labels or whatever, because they do have them. The thing is comics get so like trashed by certain types of librarians and teachers and things like that. Is like, no, you've got to read chapter books. You've got to read this. And the thing is
literature
for non-English speakers learning English, for kids who are struggling with reading and whatever. When you look at graphic storytelling, there's so much context on the page. You see a word you've never seen before, but you see how people react to it. You see what's happening in the frame around it. You can put it together a lot easier than just words on a page. And so I would go with, like I said, one of the young reader labels, or like even a really, really young kids label that's going out there, whatever. And it honestly, you have something there. There's a reason why you guys were nominated for awards up against Elmo. That actually could translate pretty well. That story that you're in with the cookies or whatever actually would translate to a comic pretty well, I think.
Wow. Now let me ask you this, and not just for Hedgehog and Chef Spoon, but would you consider also doing it in Spanish and do other comic books? Like everything that we've gone over for the past, since the show started, do those come out in Spanish? Are they translated to Spanish or Italian or French or Russian? Or is this strictly an American?
It's a big deal when anime or manga or whatever is really popular in another country. There's Russian comics that get translated and things like that. It's a big deal when there's a couple of French ones from Abrams and things that are coming over that are translated for the first time in English. Some of them are in Spanish and English, more popular in the United States. I think the DC does some Spanish translation ones, right, Erik?
I think so, yeah. And I know that sort of, because for a lot of things, it's the localization is handled by whoever's publishing it elsewhere, right? So do Spanish language versions of these comics exist? Yes. But the publisher or the U.S. publisher isn't necessarily telling us that they exist. Right. And it's funny. I think, Brendan, you ran a story on Comic-Con last week or the week before that Paper Cuts is printing one of its graphic novels in Spanish, right?
Right. And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I think you can find the Spanish versions of them, but I think that it would be a niche that's not being filled is for those ESL kids where there should be a lot more bilingual comics, especially, California, Arizona, Texas,
regional,
because you've got a lot of kids who would read a bilingual comic, who would learn more English or learn more Spanish. And I got to tell you, where I grew up, everybody spoke English and Spanish because we were so equally populated.
The location,
in the schools, and I'm in Central California where I grew up. I was in, the North Bay area. And so it wasn't even like we were on a border town or anything like that, but most people spoke Spanish. And for languages that were offered in school, it was Spanish as a second language and French right? And there were barely any kids in the French program. It was all Spanish. That's what we were learning because that was the most useful to us to communicate in our community.
And speaking of useful, and speaking of, you know, filling a niche, kind of to wrap it up, I would have got a point or shine the spotlight on something that you guys, Erik and Brendan, made clear, because who creates these titles? Who creates these stories? Who brings them to life? Artists, creators. And that's why I love what you guys made clear on social media, that look, there's a time and a place for AI. It's inevitable. We get it. But this is a medium that we're going to do. At least I don't mean to speak for you guys, but you made it clear on social media. You guys are going to do everything you can to make this as pure, not in a pretentious way, but in a genuine way that actually gives the praise and the credit and the attention to where it belongs, the artists and the people who consume their work. AI will never be able to replicate that. And shout out to the two of you for remaining adamant on that. We're in an era where a lot of people, you know, will stand on a hill on social media and it seems like grandstanding. I love the fact that you guys put that out there and made it clear because it needs to be said.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's very much because we actually had an incident where at another site they fed a press release into the machine
and they left the prompts in for publication.
That's disgusting.
It's that because you know how the machine at the bottom of whatever it generates, like, oh, I can also make this an attention-grabbing headline. Do you want me to do that?
You want me to do that as well?
They left that piece in the live article. So now all of us kind of have to take like all of the other sites, we now have to take a stand on this, right? And for me,
and the official stance, I have it in front of me, is ComicCon.com is devoted to the efforts of real people in the comics, collectibles, convention, media, and gaming spaces. As such, we do not use AI to generate articles, and we avoid spotlighting projects known to use generative tools in their development. Like an in-person convention, Comic-Con is the result of human beings doing human things, and that will not change. That is our stance, and that's what it'll always be.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly true because I'm not fully convinced that Erik is not AI. So
you know what's funny about that is
perfect.
my sister-in-law made that same joke when I posted that to my personal Facebook. So my brother passed a few years ago. I love my sister-in-law though, but I put that up and she goes, and all this time I thought you were Kevin's AI generated brother.
I didn't know if it was Erik or
carbon copy. But no, I mean,
I actually did write the statement. I did actually write that statement.
Yeah, because I saw you share it on Facebook, and I know Steve, and I know Brendan shared it. I know Steve made light to it. I said, "There's no way we could host this show today and not mention it because I love it. I absolutely love the conviction. I love the fact that it needed to be done, and you guys will continue to do it. That's the beauty of it. If AI continues to come back, you'll swing with a counterpunch every time, and that's what I love.
Yes,
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, and that brings us to the end of the show, and this is the segment where we give Paul 3.5 minutes to plug whatever he wants.
Oh,
so,
guys,
starting now.
I've been waiting. Sorry, I fell asleep during the show, but you know, it was sports or wrestling or whatever. But yeah, man, guys, thank you so much for the wonderful opportunity.
Right? Who needs Steve Johnston? Right? Who needs Steve Johnston?
Could you mute yourself, please? Yeah. But who needs Steve?
I was complimenting you, but yes, I will mute myself.
Yeah. We can talk about how much of a better show this was without Steve tomorrow, or for next week's show. But yeah, thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity, really, just to talk about, say, like Vato coin or the Sushi.
About $5.
You're still on
change.
Mute yourself, please. I'm trying to promote Vato Coin at VatoCoin.com, PaulVato.com. Paul Vato present. Mute yourself. I can't let the fans want to know where they can find Vato Coin. And you guys are making it very difficult. I'm supposed to get 3 minutes. Steve said I get 3 minutes.
The tacos in Pennsylvania were pretty good. We got some carne asada. I think they made the salsa right there. Yeah, it was good.
Was it verde or raw?